Former Finance Minister P Chidambaram will remain in the custody of the CBI till the 26th of August after a special court agreed to the investigative agency's demand for custodial interrogation. Mr. Chidambaram will be allowed to meet his family and lawyers for 30 minutes a day in this time. Now, the special court's decision followed a riveting legal battle today, with Solicitor General Tushar Mehta representing the CBI and him squaring off against Kapil Sibal and Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who appeared for Mr. Chidambaram. Strong arguments were made for and against custodial interrogation. Bringing us both sides of the legal debate on the Chidambaram case, this evening, our Supreme Court advocate and BJP leader Nalin Kohli. I'm also joined by Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, who will bring us the other perspective. We will lay out 5 key questions to both these top lawyers and look at the legal arguments from either side. Let me begin with Mr. Nalin Kohli and the basic question of whether custody was required by the CBI or not. Now, in court, Mr. Chidambaram's lawyers argued that in 14 months he was summoned only once and he went in for those summons and answered whatever questions. There was no real idea or reason to think that he would be a flight risk. So was this custody required?
In this particular case, it would be noteworthy not to lose sight of the fact that there is a judgment by the Delhi High Court with very scathing remarks. So this is just not an ordinary case in terms of saying that here is an investigation that is on. Within the investigation, a custody is being sought. One has to bear in mind that there is, after all, a very scathing judgment of the Delhi High Court which deals with the issue in detail. And that judgment makes it clear that he was evading. He appears to be the prima facie kingpin. And if the investigative agencies are feeling the need for a custodial interrogation, they are entitled to ask for it. Let's also bear in mind another fact that yes, liberty is to be protected, but crimes are against the state, and that's the law. That's why the state prosecutes crimes, because it's taken to be a crime against society. This is about major allegations of corruption, misuse of public office, involving large sums of money, 300-400 crores. And therefore, if there is a sense of non-cooperation, when there is a judgment, the demand for custodial interrogation does not appear illogical. On the contrary, it appears quite logical.
Okay. Mr. Hegde, how would you argue this? In the process of arguments, there was also one statement made by the CBI saying that he may not be a flight risk, but we owe it to the nation to get to the bottom of this case, seeing the magnitude of the offence.
Who prevented the CBI from getting to the bottom of the case? This is a case based on documents. The documents are all there in the ministries. They were cleared through a bureaucratic process. All the secretaries, whoever cleared them and put them up before the minister, are still around. What is it that you seek to achieve in custodial interrogation? Let's not beat about the bush. The most common thing that happens in custodial interrogation is the threat of third-degree violence, under which many well-known champion sort of cracks down. But here is Mr. Chidambaram. I don't think that there can be third degree resorted to. What are you going to get except that you are going to make it politically convenient on the optics side of it for the government and politically inconvenient for him. There is nothing more as far as this custody is concerned. Now they've got custody till the end of the week. On Monday there is one more petition also in the Supreme Court. What is it that they are going to get over the next 3-4 days? Are they going to confront Mr. Chidambaram with Indrani Mukerjea?
Okay.
She is after all a paragon of virtue. Nothing else can, nothing but the truth can come out of her mouth.
I'll come to her in a bit.
I
will come to the Indrani question in a bit. And I will allow one rebut each because I want to cover ground.
But I want to add a little bit to what Sanjay said.
One rebut to Nalin Kohli.
Yeah. One
and then I will
quick
start
thing
the next
on the
question with
custodial
Sanjay Hegde.
interrogation.
Yes.
Yes. Sure. So the first point is third degree is completely ruled out. He's got access every day for half an hour with his family and his lawyers. His health is going to be checked every 48 hours. So that's ruled out. That's just an unnecessary comment. The second is about custodial, who's preventing. This is about peddling of influence. The case involves illegalities committed in the INX media by Peter Mukerjea, Indrani Mukerjea, taking the help of Karti Chidambaram to use the influence of Mr. Chidambaram to get over the illegalities. That's the crux of the case. It's not in any file. It's not noted by officers. It is about the influence of Mr. Chidambaram as a minister through his son, who receives gratification for this, to help somebody cover up an illegality. So obviously, all these facts have to come from the main accused in that sense, or the one who would have perpetrated such an act.
Okay, let me come to the next key point, and I'm keeping this spacey because I think viewers will benefit from all of the arguments both of you all put forward. So I'm moving on from custodial interrogation. I'm moving to the Indrani factor. Now, she is a very key part of this entire investigation, and there are reports that she has made some very damning statements which puts Mr. Chidambaram in the dock and proves his involvement in this entire quid pro quo case. She was, of course, along with her then husband Peter Mukerjea, helming INX Media, which is at the center of the case. Mr. Hegde, isn't it going to be very difficult to get around Indrani Mukerjea's statements, and that will be incredibly damaging?
Well, Indrani Mukerjea has no known business career apart from INX Media after she married Peter Mukerjea. In the course of that marriage, we all know that she is accused of having passed off her daughter as her younger sister, and then she is now accused of having murdered her. She wants pardon or whatever lenient treatment that she can get in that case. That is your chief witness against the former finance and home minister. He is only going to say, look, these are the files which are put up to me by the secretaries through due process. After that, I meet a lot of business honchos. I may have met Peter and Indrani Mukerjea at several functions, but there was absolutely no dealing of a corrupt nature between the two. It will come down to a he says, she says situation, and then it will come down to credibility. Now, is Indrani Mukerjea a credible witness and the sole witness? I doubt that the case will fly on her testimony alone. Then comes the question of the money trail. Can you establish it? That I suppose will come in the next segment.
Yes. Now let me come to Nalin Kohli on the question of credibility, and I'm breaking this up for clarity for our viewers, because all of this is usually talked about in one big muddle, but it's important to understand the nuances. So here's a woman who's accused of murdering her own daughter and is facing possibly life imprisonment as well. Wouldn't she say anything to get an easier sentence or to wriggle out of the situation, Mr. Kohli? Why should anyone believe her?
Not at all. No, I think that's a very, very weak argument, because she cannot get any benefit in the murder case. That's a separate case, a separate crime. This is a separate case in which, as an approver, she's entitled to also seek that she doesn't get a punishment or a lesser punishment in another case. It has nothing to do with the murder case. These are two separate crimes. Now let's get the facts clear, or let your viewers understand. Indrani and Peter Mukerjea took an FIPB clearance for 4.32 crores as an investment coming from Mauritius firms. They got that. Instead of 4.32 crores, they brought 305 crores beyond the FIPB clearance, which is illegal. Then the FIPB clearance did not allow them to invest into another company called downstreaming. That means an indirect acquisition of another asset when you take permission for one asset. In this case, they did so. When the income tax started asking questions and the income tax wrote to the FIPB, then they got worried and approached Karti Chidambaram. Karti Chidambaram is not an expert on FIPB. Why did they approach him? So that he could help them get over this. To get over this problem, Mr. Karti Chidambaram receives money directly and indirectly, which is the money trail, and then more importantly says he'll take the help of Mr. Chidambaram. That's the crux of the case against Mr. Chidambaram. So therefore, in whole of this, running down Indrani is not going to help. Phone cut gaya.
Okay.
Running down Indrani is not going to help.
Okay.
So the issue is that is separate. Her credibility and her statement under 164 is a substantive statement. It can't be taken lightly.
Okay.
But obviously there has to be more to evidence, and that's the case of the CBI.
Okay, one rebut on this
Correct.
question to Mr. Hegde.
What would Karti Chidambaram have to do with Indrani except in the financial transactions, and how would you link Karti Chidambaram further to Mr. Chidambaram's actions as minister, except that they are father and son? As far as Indrani is concerned, she is facing trial for murder. If you can't get anyone other than an alleged murderer as your star witness, then I don't think the case itself has any particular legs to stand on. I don't want to give it objectives like any adjectives like my friend Nalin Kohli does, but this is a case which should be laughed out of court.
Okay. Let me come to the next point, and I'm moving quickly. Now, the next point is there...
The laughed out of court is not an adjective.
Okay, one rebut each. Let's play fair. Next point, and I start with Nalin Kohli here.
You are trying to laugh.
All right. Let's move to the next point, which is there any clear link between the funds paid to companies that now the investigative agencies say are run by Karti Chidambaram and the actions his father took as finance minister when clearing FIPB clearances or FDI into a particular company? Where is the link between father and son? Is that established clearly? Nalin Kohli.
Tamanna, that is what has to be proved. And it doesn't take rocket science, and one doesn't need to be an advocate to come out with something as simple. What is Mr. Karti Chidambaram's claim to fame? For him to have, through his various companies, whether it's Chess, Strategic Consulting, Advent, or whatever, Advantage Consulting, all these firms did huge amounts of business, could purchase assets abroad for what service that he was rendering. I mean, Sanjay and I are both advocates. We stand in court, we get paid for that. You are an anchor, so you work and you get paid at the end of the month, whatever you have to be paid. People have to work for a skill set for which they get their due payment. So what is Mr. Karti Chidambaram's thing, and why the growth during the period his father occupies offices? That's the crux of it. That's what basically peddling is about, of influence. That's illegal. And the second part to it is, should government policy therefore be up for sale? We saw that throughout the UPA too. Now in this particular case, what has to be only established is, A, did Peter Mukerjea and Indrani Mukerjea do a crime with the FIPB clearance? Yes, that's going to be easily proved. They did. Was there an attempt to cover it up, and was Karti involved? Up to that part also will become easily clear, because Karti received funds for what? For advising them to set up a channel? He doesn't have that skill set. He's not an engineer. He's not an anchor. So therefore now let's come to the third part. Why was Karti Chidambaram so important? Was Mr. Chidambaram in a position to influence or participate in the FIPB process? That's the third part of it. All of these things is what is going to be the case of the CBI. I'm not on the case, but obviously the CBI has to prove exactly these things. And for which, why is Mr. Chidambaram needed? Is because Mr. Chidambaram is needed, and in this case custodial interrogation, to be able to ask the questions or face him off against people, if they so plan to do, to get answers on this. It's not going to be on a file. It certainly can't be on a file that I am using my influence to help my son, to help somebody's illegality get over.
Okay, Mr. Hegde, that's how would you respond to that? Because I know they have to prove the link.
He's asking the court to make...
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
He's asking the court to make a great leap of the imagination, run roughshod over the Evidence Act, and then say, oh, Karti is Mr. Chidambaram's son, and therefore Mr. Chidambaram is guilty. Karti is a major. Karti has had a career as a for whatever it is worth, he has had a career as a lawyer, as a businessman. The Chidambaram family has been a family of businessmen much before P Chidambaram became a minister. So whatever his skill sets, are they unrelated to the running of business? Peter and Indrani Mukerjea, those paragons of virtue, would not want to pay him for whatever skills he had. Most importantly, to my mind, what would have to be established would be that Karti told Chidambaram that, look, please do this, I want it done. And Chidambaram agreeing, knowing fully well that Karti had gained some gratification in the process. That particular linkage I don't think can be established, and it's very unlikely unless one or the two of them turn approver. Father and son turning approver against each other is a huge ask.
No, but this, then how would
this
you?
This is all kite flying,
yeah,
and won't run.
No, I know Mr. Nalin Kohli has to rebut to this, but just a question. Say if this had happened, and son did use father's influence to make money on the side, how would you ever prove it? There would not be any WhatsApp or mail or letter. Does that mean in that case someone who does this crime gets away?
No. See, first and foremost, don't be befuddled with all these figures. There was permission for 5 crores, an extra 300 crores came in. It was money that was coming in. That could have been compounded by paying the RBI a compounding charge. To avoid that, certain permissions were taken, not taken, whether they are criminal, not criminal, that's the case. Now, as far as this linkage is concerned, you would have to establish a money trail that money was paid in advance as a specific bribe for this particular act, which was done other than out of the ordinary process. Without that, you may possibly even get at Karti for influence peddling or for other crimes. But to get Mr. Chidambaram, you would have to prove his personal complicity. That is going to be a tremendous ask.
Mr. Nalin Kohli, and just in the context of what we saw happening with the 2G case and Mr. Raja.
I find it interesting, even funny, that Mr. Hegde believes as if we don't understand that in a court all of this has to be proved. I mean, obviously it has to be proved. Of course, it has to be part of the Evidence Act. It has to follow the due procedure. That's why there are courts. And that's the duty of the investigative agency. That's a basic. You teach it to a first-year graduate person taking graduation in court. It's not as if I have forgotten about it or he is entitled to remind me. So I'm making as blunt a statement there. The fact of the matter is, this is exactly what the case is. There are two possibilities. Mr. Hegde is arguing the case and he's entitled to looking at Mr. Chidambaram and Karti as paragons. I'm not looking at Mr. Karti or Chidambaram as either paragons or as the criminals. I'm merely saying there is a High Court judgment. I have not written it. A judge of the Delhi High Court has written it with scathing comments in it. And the investigation is going on in which the courts have given him custody. I have not given it. The BJP hasn't given it. A court has given him custody of 5 days. The court is not silly. The court must have looked at something that it has acceded to the request for giving custody. So all of this, Indrani Mukerjea being a paragon, it doesn't matter. She has made a statement because she's obviously of a criminal intent. She's committed crimes. She's mentioning whom she has taken help on in committing her crimes.
Okay.
That's her case.
I want to
her being a good lady or a bad lady has nothing to do with it. What the agency has to do is prove it. And the agency, if it doesn't prove it, and Mr. Chidambaram has done no wrong, he has nothing to fear.
Okay, I'm going to go quickly through the next two questions because I want to cover that ground. Let me come to Sanjay Hegde. A lot has been said about the manner in which the CBI finally arrested Mr. Chidambaram. And I know this question is quasi-legal, quasi-political because it has become a hot political topic as well. Why did they scale the walls? Why did they have to act like they're hunting him down? Notices, summons within 2 hours. What do you have to say on that?
Well, that's an obvious answer. The answer is this, that Mr. Chidambaram decided and his team decided to turn it into a media spectacle, bang at prime time at 8 o'clock. The CBI was not expecting it. That's what the channels were reporting, that no sooner that Mr. Chidambaram appeared at Congress headquarters, that CBI bosses who had all gone home suddenly started coming back to CBI headquarters. The CBI Keystone Corp started rushing out of CBI, and by the time they arrived at Congress headquarters, we saw certain further visuals where Mr. Chidambaram left and went home. There were Congress protests. This is all, let's say, made for television political drama, and it was answered in the language of political drama. So therefore, it's not that they could not have pushed open the gate or asked somebody to open the gate. There was a huge crowd there. There were not only CBI officials scaling the walls. I did notice, and I was told by some media cameramen, that there were also media personnel who were scaling the walls.
Yeah.
So
but I mean, media persons often
all
scale
that
walls
was just
to
media
get the best
spectacle.
shot.
But there's one question. Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
Just one. See, the moment that Mr. Chidambaram came onto that press conference and told the nation that he believed in liberty, he believed that there was an appeal to the Supreme Court, and that if the CBI did something to short circuit that appeal, it would be the CBI's responsibility. He was putting it squarely to the CBI. Look, here I am. If you want, come and arrest me. The CBI has chosen to arrest him in the most dramatic manner possible. And all that Mr. Kohli and the rest are saying is, oh, there's a Delhi High Court judgment. The Delhi High Court judgment
Let's hear what Mr. Kohli is saying.
Point.
Let's hear what Mr. Kohli is saying.
Should we give him anticipatory bail or not?
Okay, Mr. Kohli, the manner in which it happened, why did they have to scale the wall? I mean, I don't know if they tried ringing the bell. He was at the press conference. Did it have to be so dramatic?
Well, I'll only agree with one comment of Mr. Hegde, that it was obviously by Mr. Chidambaram and his team to make a spectacle of it, because the converse could have easily happened. He could have easily gone ahead and submitted himself for investigation and joined the investigation. That would have been the easiest thing. But if you go lock your gate, lock your house, lock your everything, then if so be it, if they came, now what do you expect them to bring? A JCB and knock down the gate? I don't think that would be there. And we live in the times where television, and you are a television channel yourself, understand that in today's age, the television cameras, their power, their own excitement about breaking news, the political workers arriving there, the situation becoming a little crowded. It's a residential colony, it's not Ramlila Maidan exactly. So therefore, all of this has contributed to the images you've seen. It's not the first time it's happened. I recall this happening even when Jayalalitha ji had, the late Jayalalitha ji had sent out a police team to arrest the late Karunanidhi ji. We've seen that in TV also. It was in the 1990s.
Okay. Last question. Was Mr. Chidambaram
There's a story there. There's a story there.
Okay. I'm very short on time, Mr. Hegde, and I want to get to the last point. Very quickly. Okay, I'll give you very little time if you want to come to it. Yes, Mr. Hegde.
No, quickly.
Yeah.
During the Karunanidhi arrest, the policeman, I'm told, assisted Mr. Karunanidhi by telling him, please get the Sun TV crew to cover the arrest.
Okay.
You can get as much political mileage as you want.
Okay. Well, okay. I want to come to the last question, and this is a key one. Was Mr. Chidambaram indeed absconding for...
I need to leave in a minute.
Okay, I'm coming to you, Nalin Kohli. Was Mr. Chidambaram indeed absconding for at least 24 hours? A lot of people said he's missing, he's absconding. Under the law, was he required to keep his phone on and actually answer all of those summons when he was waiting for an anticipatory bail hearing in the Supreme Court?
No. I will excuse myself after my answer with due apology to my colleague Sanjay, because it's not meant as discourtesy, but I need to get up for another show. Okay. Is that essentially, bottom line is, he made himself unavailable and he chose to stay away from that. Had he, and perhaps there is a version which I read in the papers, it's not my version, is that perhaps it was felt even by his legal team and others that he should have not disappeared in the manner because it was adding to a negative perception. Now, I don't know what the truth is, but the fact of the matter is he was certainly not available, And despite the agencies trying to get in touch with him, they couldn't find him.
Okay, Mr. Hegde,
Thank you.
on this point, bad optics but bad in law?
Optics is optics. I don't advise on that.
Yeah.
Legally, he was not an absconder because the agency could very well have gone back to the court, asked for a warrant. They said that we are not able to serve a warrant, and then taken a process to declare him an absconder. None of that happened. He was unavailable for about 24 hours. You have every right to challenge any order in a higher court, any judicial order. And in the meanwhile, if the agencies are harassing you have a stay petition which is annexed to your main petition. You could very well wait for the outcome of the hearing, but obviously the agency was not willing to wait.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Nalin Kohli and Mr. Sanjay Hegde, for joining us today for this very civil conversation, yet with opposite perspectives. We hope it's added some knowledge and details to our viewers who have been tracking this case, as we are constantly as well. That's all the time we have on the India Development Debate this evening. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you back tomorrow.